Media Center, Danylo Lubkivsky, Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs of Ukraine.
Дуже дякую, Наталю. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Natalia, for introducing. So I will make a brief statement and I will be ready to respond 1, 2, or 3 your questions. So today is our second meeting and I'm glad to see here familiar faces. I wish I could start on a more positive note, but the balance of powers didn't change much since our meeting last Friday. After a long pause in the Ukraine-Russian relations caused by the Russian aggression, there has been established a contact on a high level. The foreign ministers, Danylo and Lavrov, met on the sidelines of the Hague summit. It's a positive move, but not yet a path to normalization. No normalization is possible as long as Ukrainian territory remains occupied. But it's definitely a path to avoid further expansion of conflict and bloodshed. We use this meeting to state clearly, abundantly clear, our position. I hope Mr. Lavrov will have a saying in this conflict on the Russian side, not only Mr. Kalashnikov. We see that the international pressure is growing. The world leaders have decided to end Russia's role in the group of leading industrialized countries, namely the group of 8. The sanctions expand. Russia's economic outlook with the Fitch agency got downgraded. I'm sure it's just the beginning, unless Russian leadership comes to its senses. The IMF mission in Ukraine is completing its work today. As I understand, the meetings they had in Ukrainian ministry were rather satisfying. We were informed that today there will be a meeting with the Prime Minister, Arsenij Yatsenyuk. Both sides are result-oriented. This means that the reforms promised by this government are shaping more and more vividly on the horizon. The situation on the ground in the Crimea remains complicated. Under Ukraine's Security Council decision, our troops based in the Crimea will be redeployed. People in the Crimea are beaten and tortured. Russian militants abduct people. They take away Ukrainian property. This once again shows that international pressure on Moscow is needed now more than ever. Another worrisome tendency is that the Russian troops keep coming to Ukraine's borders. They claim to have ended military exercises, but soldiers don't withdraw to their headquarters. We are ready to defend Ukraine. In fulfilling this task, we count on the world's support. We are active within the United Nations and other international bodies. As you may be aware of the fact that our Foreign Minister Danylo is coming to UN General Assembly tomorrow, and he will participate in the meeting dedicated to the territorial integrity of Ukraine. Despite Russia's efforts, we enjoy a broad support within the international community of the nations, and we plan to expand it. I do thank you, and I'm ready to answer your questions.
Thank you. I'm Jess Nielsen from the Danish newspaper, Jutland Post. You're saying there can't be any normalization as long as Ukrainian territory is occupied with regards to Crimea. But you've withdrawn all the troops now. Isn't it a fact that that territory is actually lost? And secondly, with regards to that fact, then how does the Ukrainian government plan to deal with that new situation? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. The Crimea is not lost. The Crimea is the Ukrainian territory. It is occupied by Russian troops. Definitely no normalization is possible since our territory is occupied. But of course, we can establish and we can see and we can go along the path to normalization. That's our aim and that's our strong stance. Speaking about our further steps with regard to Crimea, we have a clear vision how to deal with this and how to make all the separatists sorry for what they did and how to make abundantly clear that Russia cannot behave like it behaved in the world affairs. Thank you.
There's one more here.
Good afternoon, Vladimir Solovyov, Al Jazeera, America.
Hello, Vladimir.
We have a question after the meeting between Mr. Lavrov and Mr. Deshchitsa. There was a press statement where Mr. Lavrov said that we have no intention of military force, of using military force in the eastern regions of Ukraine. But at the same time, Mr. Lavrov said that the interests of all Ukrainian citizens must be protected. What does the Ministry of Foreign Affairs make out of this statement?
You mean the Foreign Minister Lavrov?
What does the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine make out of the statement of Mr. Lavrov?
I will put it like this. If we speak about the Russian politics and the Russian policy toward Ukraine and in the current international relations, we definitely see that Russian politics are not predictable. And actually it was stated by the whole international community. But what we want to make them predictable, that's why we met. And we clearly stated our own position. With regards to their steps, we hope that Mr. Lavrov saying that they have no plans of further military actions is a strong position of their country, and they will keep it to that. Thank you.
Clarification, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, does the second part of his statement leave any window of opportunity of still using military action in the East?
Definitely we will defend ourselves. There is no need of any foreign protection of Ukrainian citizens. And I do not think that there is any need to speculate on that from the Russian Federation. There are no any human rights violations in Ukraine. There is no need to protect any single person in Ukraine, and definitely not Russians to do that. But there is another problem. We need to protect people in the Crimea. And we call Russian authorities, as they have already occupied Ukrainian territory, to do everything possible to stop those barbarian actions that we face in the Crimea. People are tortured, people are beaten, national minorities' rights are not protected. That's Russia's responsibility.
Question, please.
My name's Harvey Carroll. I've been dealing with political policy for nearly 30 years. I try to look at this as a peaceful solution and have an exit strategy. I remember President Obama, when he first came to office, he quickly came to judgment for his friend, a fellow professor, who called him up and said he was arrested for racial issues. I was thinking, trying to get into the mind of President Putin, and thinking that possibly his friend Yanukovych called him up, said, roll in troops, there's a coup here in Kyiv, when in actuality, his death squads were killing people on Institutional Street next door, and his own parliament voted to impeach him and establish a new government. How can you communicate with Russian counterparts that President Yanukovych lost his legitimacy as president as he became a mass murderer, and how can you communicate to the Russian people that you all have maintained peace, you did not do any aggressive acts to the military forces that were coming in there, and use this as an exit strategy that President Putin relied on that information from President Yanukovych and the mass media that he received. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your question is actually the answer. I will tell you that we are grateful for every support and solidarity that we enjoy on the part of the international community, including our strategic partner, the United States. Of course, we communicate with our Russian partners, as I've told you, that we held the meeting between our two foreign ministers. So we clearly state our position. We say there are no extremists here, and please do not follow the Russian propaganda. I hope that our clear and true position will go further, and we will have a strong communication with Russian society. We do count on that Russians will not believe the Russian propaganda, which is of imperialistic and chauvinistic style, but will look seriously at current developments, and they will do everything possible to stop the madness that we have witnessed in the Crimea. We do count on Russian public opinion. I had several talks with Russian public opinion leaders, thanking them for their support and their clear vision. And I do feel that we can have a strong and interesting dialogue with them. So we are doing our work. We are doing our job explaining people what's going on. We also take into account that Russian propaganda is of massive character. It influences our people. It also is spreading all over the world. But the point, and that's a very important point, is that international community clearly sees what Russia is doing, and their deeds are not acceptable for the world. I hope that at the United Nations General Assembly we will have strong support for Ukraine's position, for our territorial integrity, for our sovereignty, because we are talking not only about Ukraine, but we are talking about the international system and fundamental principles of that system. If we want to live in the world of peace and stability, please support Ukraine, follow us. We can produce a good example of a successful nation which will go through all these dramatic challenges, will succeed in the struggle against aggressor and in the struggle for our prosperity, democratic rule of law reforms and European integration. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lubkivsky.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you very much. Thank you, and I hope to see you on Thursday.
Yes. On Thursday we'll have another briefing with Mr. Lubkivsky, and we'll move on to Mr. Prodan's briefing in a few minutes. Thank you.